Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of The Bright Business Owner. I'm Ellis Daniel. I'm one of the Senior Employment Law Advisors here at BrightHR. Today we're talking about a topic that's very close to most people's hearts, and that's mental health in the workplace. Today I'm talking to Anisha Kumar, who's a wellbeing counsellor at HA Wisdom Wellbeing. Over to you to introduce yourself, Anisha.
Thanks, Ellis. I'm Anisha. I've been a counsellor for about 3.5 years now. I started at HA Wisdom Wellbeing as a graduate counsellor, so it was really my first steps there. And I've worked into sort of working as a digital wellbeing counsellor. I really enjoy working in this space as it's an employee assistance program. It provides support for employees specifically of companies, and it's a really great space to offer accessible support.
Absolutely. So if we're going to talk about mental health in the workplace, what sort of inspired you, Anisha, and is that something that's close to your heart?
Absolutely. I never really saw myself working in this space. However, I found out that when I work with employees, it's not just workplace stress that I'm working with. People bring their lives into their workplace and vice versa. So you're really working with everything under the sun with things like that. It's really close to my heart because I get to see a lot of people trying to work with their work identity, their personal life stresses, relationships, family dynamics. All of it's really special to me since I see people being weighed down by this and not really be able to be themselves at work or do the things that they enjoy doing.
Absolutely. And for those who are watching who are unaware of what an EAP is, would you mind just explaining a little bit about what that is?
Absolutely. So an EAP is an employee assistance program. It's sort of like a self-support service that employees can access that businesses provide for their employees. This could involve a lot of things. It could include occupational health, it could include mental health support. I know we offer legal advice as well. It's really a holistic sort of support system that employees can access through their work. And it's a great benefit for employers to have in the sense that it provides them with the support that they can't directly provide to employees.
Perfect. So let's get into it then. Let's really talk about mental health in the workplace. In 2025, 64% of organizations reported experiencing staff absences that were related to stress, with this figure rising to as high as 84% in the public sector. In your opinion, do you think businesses are taking action to prevent this?
Absolutely. I think about 75% of organizations in the UK are taking lots of action to improve employee health and well-being overall, not just mental health, physical health. It's a more holistic approach these days than we're used to. However, it's important to continue focusing on that. I'm seeing businesses focus not just on strategizing, but also increasing awareness, which is really good to see.
That's really interesting. So in your experience as a counsellor, what would you say are the most common causes of work-related stress?
Across the board, we see some patterns arise over and over again. I think relevant to what we're talking about, workplace overload, sort of stress overload is a big thing. People feel like there's not enough hours in the day to complete the tasks that they're expected to complete, and this sort of piles on over time. We also find that there's a level of insecurity over redundancies or losing jobs if they've been off sick for a long time, especially in the current economic climate. That can be quite scary for people to contend with, and that can come up as stresses in the workplace. I think there's also a certain level of lack of autonomy that people feel in the workplace as well, where they feel sort of very visible constantly. And this can crop up especially in places where there's a toxic workplace culture, and that can make it difficult to navigate workplace relationships as well, which both ends feel employers and employees as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that one of the most common ways that employees tend to hear of mental health awareness in the workplace, for example, would be through those initiatives that are launched, frequently each year. So we're talking about Movember, Men's Mental Health Day, perhaps suicide awareness. Do you have an opinion on those events and what they stand for within your sort of industry?
Yeah, sometimes we can see that as employers paying lip service to these awareness days that are part of what they need to do in a calendar year. Regardless, I think some places it can be, and that's understandable, but I still think it opens up a door for conversation. Even if one person from the day learns something new and is able to open up to a line manager or a supervisor and say, hey, I'm really struggling. I did not know I could talk about this in work. That's a really great thing to see. That said, I'm seeing a lot of employers have mental health policies in place as well. So it's not just these mental health days that are in place, but also real sort of backing in terms of policy and strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think they are important, to be honest, because like you said, any awareness is good. And it's always good to really try and inspire people to speak their minds. And I think awareness is something that is drastically increasing across the board, even outside of employment law. It's just being aware of other people and, you know, other concepts that perhaps might seem foreign to you, but it's all very important to different people. You know, different people suffer with different elements, and it's important that we bring that to light and really offer that support, especially as a business owner with your duty of care. So with 75% of businesses in the UK offering some form of mental health support, do you think we are going in the right direction with action as well as mental health awareness?
I think definitely we are, even if we started off with a slow start. It's challenging though. Organizations aren't just dealing with workplace stress. Workplace stress comes with family stress or relationship stress, childcare stress. There's so much else going on in people's lives, and work is just a fragment of everything that they're bringing into the workplace. I think about 57% of organizations are classing non-work related factors as a stressor that induces sickness and taking sick time off. This can be family, relationships, financial concerns being a big one. So we're definitely going in the right direction in terms of awareness and action, but there's still a long way to go.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, even in my career, mental health awareness is definitely something that has increased across the board in every industry, really. Mental health never used to be something that people particularly spoke about, but now it's definitely something that is promoted and campaigned for, really. So I think that's really important. And then if we're saying that stress outside of the workplace is causing absences, how do employers approach it, and how do employers navigate having the duty of care to look after their employees both in and outside of the workplace?
I think a good place to start is at the knowledge base. What employers know about their employees is a good place to start. So that's really the investigative process, really. And this begins with talking to your employees, asking the right questions. I've seen employers do surveys and focus groups. This provides a lot of structure with employees where they can sit down and have that conversation. You often find that in certain workplaces, depending on the kind of workplace it is, you have some patterns emerge. For example, night shift workers, they have very specific kind of stresses going on in their lives, and having a sit down with your employees is a great place to begin. Another good place to start is to offer flexible working or phased returns. This ensures that employees feel really comfortable having conversations with you as to why and when they need to be off, and allow them to work whilst navigating personal stresses in life. Another thing would be to do stress audits or risk assessments. This creates a great qualitative and quantitative baseline for you to have data, really, as an employer, as to where your employees stand in terms of what's impacting them, in terms of being able to engage in the workplace.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because if you're not aware of what those potential stresses could be within your business, how else are you going to find out, you know, apart from asking your employees and getting that valued information? So this is definitely one of those subjects that employers might feel that they're on shaky ground, legally speaking. It is difficult for business owners to know what to say and when to say it, and the uncertainty in knowing how to handle these situations can lead to culture issues within the workplace and even tribunal claims if the correct procedures and support are not given. Silence helps no one. I would argue that the best way for businesses to be able to navigate these problems and these issues that may arise is to have a rigid support structure in place, to have a mental health policy. Do you agree with that, Anisha?
Absolutely. Creating a culture of openness is a bit of a task, especially in workplaces. People do have boundaries that they want to stick to in terms of the workplace, whether that's an employee or an employer. It can be a really uncomfortable space to bring up personal conversations. I think a good place to start is to offer EAP services. We almost act like a bridge, really, because an employer can signpost their employee to us rather than have to figure out how to resolve an issue that they have no way of resolving themselves. Whereas the employee has the satisfaction of getting signposted by their employer and also having real support in terms of mental health. You can also train line managers to recognize and spot symptoms and signs of mental health, or mental ill health rather, to understand really what employees are going through. You can have mental health first aiders, and lots of EAPs, including ourselves, we offer things like coaching for line managers, where there's a real awareness of things like menopause, for example, which might be quite invisible.
Yeah, absolutely. And we shouldn't forget employers themselves. 1 in 7 owners of small businesses in the UK experienced mental health challenges in 2025. So how can employers help their own mental health?
I think it's a myth, really, that employers aren't reaching out themselves to EAPs. I do hear from a lot of employers themselves, and not just employers, but people in management positions, so line managers and supervisors. I think it's related to the amount of stress that they experience when they're responsible and accountable for a team and a large number of people, not just in terms of the workplace, but everything that they bring with them to the workplace. So that's a lot of decision fatigue that they're experiencing. So EAPs, despite the name as Employee Assistance Program, isn't just for employees, it's for employers as well, really. And it's important for them to take care of themselves in order to take care of the other people relying on them within the workplace.
That's really interesting. I mean, obviously I've worked closely with the Employee Assistance Program in the past, but it's not something that really had occurred to me that managers, line managers, or even business owners would be reaching out for that support. But it's definitely important. And I think the bigger the team you have and the more of perhaps an empath you are as an employer, you're likely to really take on board any problems that your employees are facing in the workplace or outside of the workplace as well. So, it's important that everyone is aware that if you are an employer and you do have an employee assistance program, that of course you can reach out for that support. I mean, my job primarily is to speak to new clients, prospective clients, new business owners, and the ones that I speak to often feel like they've got the weight of the world on their shoulders, especially when we're talking about changes to the Employment Rights Act coming in and the constant adding pressure that small businesses unfortunately face. What do you think that they can do to feel less alone?
So they can always reach out to EAPs, and that's just one aspect of it. I do encourage people to reach out to the support systems around them as well. This is not just people, but all the resources that you have access to. So videos, podcasts, so many apps in terms of mental health as well that are really underutilized when it comes to self-support. And it's important to highlight that whenever we get a chance as well. I have seen people reach out when they've got a big project push and that's just underway, especially over the December period or the financial year end. And they found that they're struggling to reintegrate with the team or let go of past stresses and frustrations. And we've really advised that they have conversations with the people around them, because as much as I can provide support on the phone or over a live chat or a video call, the people that they need to talk to are around them.
Absolutely. I think it's really important that people do voice their feelings, which sounds like a basic thing to say, but I think it starts there, really. So I believe that there's always a very fine line between HR and health and safety. So when do you think stress can become a health and safety issue?
Nearly every day. I think there's a large amount of workplace accidents that happen because people aren't feeling their best selves. Nearly 2/3 of workplaces, both across the UK and Ireland, report that this is a big issue. I think also employees can feel quite unsafe in the workplace when they don't feel their best selves in terms of turning up and showing up as themselves. I see people talk about the kind of thoughts that they're having and how this makes them feel unsafe to be in the workplace. Their emotional climate can not only impact themselves, but also other people. We do have a lot of risk of harm from others becoming such a highlight in terms of our day-to-day working as counsellors and seeing people struggle in workplaces.
So how does HA Wisdom Wellbeing support employees?
So through our EAP, employees have access to 24/7 support. This means they can ring in from their house, from work, as long as they feel they have a confidential, safe space to talk from, they can talk to somebody. We've seen a reduction in depression and anxiety. We've seen a reduction in absenteeism, and there's a much higher return to work rate after having had support from us, whether that's in the moment support where they have a one-off conversation with us, or it's ongoing support where they have access to a number of sessions or a self-led program where they can support themselves in being able to be resilient enough to return to work.
I think that's really important that obviously it's a 24/7 service, because most people tend to get those, late night thoughts that perhaps are, a bit scarier than the ones they might get during the day. So it's important to have that outlet at all times and not just within work hours, because you might not be comfortable or confident enough to pick up that phone from the workplace, for example. So I think that's really, really important as a part of the service. Thank you for your time, Anisha. That was really informative, and I think it's really important that we're here today to shed light on mental health in the workplace. Where can we go for more information?
So you can visit healthassured.org for more information. We've got lots of resources, podcasts like this one, and wellbeing resources, articles that we write as counsellors. People can also download the Wisdom Wellbeing app and take it from there in terms of being able to have a conversation with one of us. And that would be a good place to start if you're looking for any kind of support, even if you're not looking to have a conversation.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important that everyone watching is aware of the resources available if you need that support, or if you feel that an employee might need that support. It's really important that you check out our resources. But yeah, thanks again, Anisha. Pleasure to meet you. Thank you very much.